So the Lord taught me something several years back, like when I was young in this walk, that it doesn't matter where you are or who you're around, that He's powerful and He can touch anybody. And I was actually, it was about 15 years ago, I was with my friend Jason, man, and we were walking through a mall in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was called the Eastland Mall, I think, and it was over near UNC Charlotte. And we're walking around and we made up our minds that we weren't going to leave until we had like given a prophetic word or something to somebody and impacted somebody and blessed them. So we find ourselves in the store before we're leaving the mall, and we both feel like, okay, this is it. We're gonna try to hear the Lord on somebody's behalf in here and really bless somebody, really hit them up. And the funny thing about the store is it was like a predominantly African American store. Like it was like, I think it was like Male Image or something like that. And it was like really high end suits and like shoes and like gator shoes and all this kind of stuff. And they had like a tailor there to like tailor your clothes in. And me and Jason were like, we were like two rough looking dudes when we were young, like for real. Like, I mean, I had hair like all the way down my back, you know, I could touch my belly button with my bangs, you know what I'm saying? And he wasn't much better than that, you know, we were just rough looking dudes. But we had our hearts were to like to bless people in this store. And so we're walking around this really nice high end store. They got like pairs of Air Jordans on the wall that are like $200, the retro line and stuff. And we're like, Lord, would you give us something for these people? We want to hook them up. We want to bless them before we leave the mall. And I see this young guy. He's like getting there for his shift, and he's walking back towards the stock room. And when I saw him, I instantly got a word for the Lord from him. You know, I was praying, you got something for this guy? And what the word was, which made me super nervous, was this guy's fixing to have a baby and he's really nervous about it. But I want him to know that like, it's going to be all right. I'm going to take care of things. And so, like, that's one of those words, again, you're going to be straight up dead wrong or you're going to be right. You know, it's from the Lord or it's from your imagination. And so I kind of looked at Jason. We were kind of like each other's wingman. I'm like, I got something, you know. These two scruffy looking kids, man. And he's like, you do? I said, so the guy's going to check in the stock room and he's coming out. And the way the store worked is it was like, the cash register stuff was like in the middle of the store. You know how some of those big stores in the mall are like that, right? So we're kind of walking out. And as we're walking out, there's 3 or 4 of the employees were standing around that cash register where that young guy had walked back out. And so we kind of stopped, and they had to have been thinking, like, what are these weird looking guys doing in here, man? You know? And I looked up to them, and I just looked at the 4 of them, and I said, excuse me. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, are one of you fixing to have a baby soon? Like that. And they were just like, what? And they were like, yeah, he is. And pointed to the young guy, like him and his girlfriend, they're pregnant. And I was like, okay, well, I know this might sound kind of strange, but you know, we're just Christians. And I was actually just praying. And as you walked in, I felt like that the Lord said that you were fixing to have a baby and that He wanted you to know that like, He's got your back, man. Like it's going to be good and He's going to take care of you or whatever. And so they were like, whoa. To which then Jason jumps in and he looks at them and he goes, and he says, actually, as soon as Daniel said baby, I heard the name Elijah come into my mind. And then as soon as he said the name Elijah, they were all just like, whoa, like they're all like, what the heck is happening here? You know what I mean? And Jason goes, yeah, like, does that make, and they're like, yeah, his name is Elijah. They've named the baby Elijah. You know, he hasn't been born yet, but that's the name him and his mother have called him. And so we were like, you know, feeling good. And so they're like, and Jason was like, well, actually, I felt like he was going to be a musician. He's going to be a gifted musician and that he's going to actually turn people's hearts to the Lord with his musical gift. And then they were just like, oh my gosh, because the baby's dad was a musician. I don't remember if it was like a jazz musician or what he was, but he was some type of musician, and they were just all like bugged out. And these two scruffy looking dudes had rolled up in their store and were used by God to actually impact them. And so the manager's like, hey, listen, could you guys do this for the rest of our employees? Like just pray like you did right there and like tell them what you feel like God shows you. And we're just like, you know, look at Jason like, yeah, man, let's do it. And he's like, all right, would you mind going to our stock room? And so the manager had the employees going one by one into the stock room for these two like trashy looking white dudes to like pray for these people that were dressed in like real nice slacks and ties and nice shoes and stuff. You know what I mean? It's hilarious, dude. And at the end of it, the manager comes back there. I think there was like 4 or 5 employees, and we stood around in a circle like the Waltons, you know what I mean, and held hands to pray. And Jason just goes, he's like, hey, listen, is there anybody that actually, do y'all want to give, does anybody here like wants to give your heart to the Lord or give, rededicate your life to the Lord or anything like that? And there was a couple of them like, yeah, I really want to live for the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And so and it's like, well, cool. And so we just prayed with them. You know what I'm saying? And so we had like people give their life to the Lord. We had people encouraged by the prophetic words that we gave them. And we had mad love. And next thing you know, we're walking out leaving. You know what I mean? And so like that was our day at the mall. And we were fired up, dude. And like, we were young, I mean, I remember on the way out, right? There was a Muslim couple walking in. A lady had a garb on her head and everything. And I looked at this couple and I said, is there anything I can pray for you guys for? And they're like, oh, no, thank you. And I was like, hey, listen, if you have any physical problems, I guarantee you that Jesus will heal you right now. And they were like, no, thank you. So just tell that part of the story just to show you how confident I was feeling rolling up out of that. And I was kind of young, so I was kind of, flying off, you know what I'm saying? But, something that solidified in me back in those days that I have even now is like, everybody's looking for like their demographic, you know what I mean? There's a popular term of being relevant, you know what I mean? Like, be relevant and be hip and reach people and, but if there's anything that the Lord kind of showed us in that story or in that experience is just like, there's people here that couldn't be more different, you know what I mean? Two like scruffy looking long haired, white kids wearing like cut off shorts, bro. Like, I'm not even joking, man. Like rolling up in these other people, like a high end store where they probably make more money than us just off their commissions alone. You know what I'm saying? Where all these wealthy people, white people, black people, all together. But what was relevant was nothing except for the power of God. And that's what's relevant, man. Love is relevant. Love is a language that's relevant. It doesn't matter if you're like the person you're exchanging it with or not. Power is undeniably relevant, Not the fake, like, religious power, like, oh, I mean, you feel the power of God, brother. You know what I'm saying? But, like, real, honest, life-changing power that makes you walk out of a place different than when you walked in, like, that's relevant. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that there's no saucing that up. It's real or it's not. You know what I'm saying? And, we stepped into this place as just regular Christian. This is a 15 years old story, man. I've never even told this story, I don't think. Jason's told it a couple times. But like, of these two regular people who weren't really even educated or anything like that at the time, but believed that in Christianity, the veil's been torn and we have a communication to God, and man doesn't live by bread alone. And the covenant of God is Isaiah 59. You know what I'm saying? Like, my words will be in you and in your descendants forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, God wants to arise and shine through his people, and he wants to share love and encouragement through us if we will choose to be used by him. And sometimes we're not just looking for like conditions to be perfect. You know what I'm saying? We might not even be looking for our demographic or trying to fit into a scheme or being relevant. It's just about being yourself and being free and being the love of God. And as they say in East Texas, that dog will hunt, When we stepped into that store and when we left, I know for one thing, one young man who saw a baby that he was having as an accident, as being a true gift from God, and the confidence that like, yo, God's in this and he's going to take care of you if you, choose to live and choose to connect to him. Like, he's good and you can trust him. And man, that's to me, that's a home run, man. You know what I'm saying? And so anyways, we like to talk about that kind of thing a lot. Like, you can change the world on any given day. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, because of who's inside of you. If you'll choose to look with the eyes of the Lord and the eyes of hope, you see that the field is white for the harvest, man. And so that's the story for the day. It's a pretty funny one.